Hi, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter or Ambidextral Knife Fighter. We'll talk about the Rex Applegate knife by Boker Knives, and we'll go over this book here, The Combat Use of the Double-Edged Fighting Knife by Rex Applegate. Let's have a look. Now, I hardly claim to be an expert on knife fighting, so I'm going to refer to this book here called The Combat Use of the Double-Edged Fighting Knife by Colonel Rex Applegate. Now, Rex Applegate, he is also the author of Bullseyes Don't Shoot Back, along with Michael Janich, Kill or Get Killed, and is featured heavily in, or his technique is featured in the Shooting for Keeps video by Paladin Press. And you can actually find that video on YouTube. I'll have a link down in the description below. Now, Rex Applegate, after training in close association with both W.E. Fairbairn and E.A. Sykes, while assigned to the OSS in 1943, he was ordered to duty at the U.S. Army Military Intelligence Training Center at Camp Ritchie, Maryland. The purpose of the assignment was to organize and direct the combat section of this new center, where intensive close-quarter, armed and unarmed combat instruction was the training mission. Now, it is this knife that we're going to be going over here, this Rex Applegate knife. It is the only fighting knife ever designed based on extensive after-action combat reports that took place during World War II at that U.S. Army Military Intelligence Training Center. Now, in this book, he talks about a properly trained knife fighter armed with a double-edged knife should prevail in any close quarter encounters against individuals armed with most weapons other than firearms. In fact, at close quarters, given the element of surprise, the opponent armed with a handgun is still vulnerable to deadly attacks against a trained knife fighter. Now, the heart of the fighting knife is its blade. It should be 5 to 7 inches in length, double-edged, and wide enough to be razor sharp on both sides all the way back to the crossguard. The point must be sharp enough to penetrate, thick and tough enough to withstand side pressure. Now, this blade is, it's from Boker Knives, and its blade length is 5.91 inches. The oval-shaped handle should fit the palm of the hand and be designed so that the edges of the blade can be immediately and automatically located in dark or light conditions. In other words, basically the handle is you're able to grip it and index the knife and know which way it's pointed. Now, one thing with the reason you go with a double edge is you want to better grab it in any index direction and know where your cutting edges are at on each side. The handle should not turn in the hand due to sweaty palms, etc., when the blade strikes resistance. The knife should be handle heavy with relation to balance. See, if I try to balance this, I have to come back to about here. It's a little bit handle heavy. There are some weights in here to give it that balance. Nothing in the design should limit its possibilities for use as a weapon from any position or either hand. So, and hence that's why I'm talking about it, because it's ambidextrous. It's not cut one way or the other for left or right, just left or just right-handed use. It's perfectly mirrored, perfectly ambidextrous. The overall length should be approximately 10 to 11 inches. Now this Boker knife is 10.71 inches. And the weight should be in the 1/2 to 3/4 pound range, and this is just over a 1/2 pound. So this is the Boker Applegate-Fairbairn knife that meets the specifications as outlined by Rex Applegate as a result of their research at the U.S. Army Military Intelligence Training Center. Now, the reason I'm reading from the book, because I really don't know this much about knife fighting, but the correct fencing foil across the palm grip when one is using a double-edged fighting knife. Grasp in this manner, the knife becomes an extension of the hand. By turning the wrist, thrust, forehand, back, and backhand slashes, the ripping strokes are possible. And this grip, of course, works with either hand. Now, as far as the knife fighting stance, you want to drop into a balanced crouch with the knees flexed, feet and shoulder width apart, and one foot placed in front of the other. Hold the knife close to your body at waist level. The free hand should extend slightly in front. The correct stance keeps your knife hand well out of your opponent's reach and allows the free hand to make feints or parries, misdirect the opponent's eyes, or throw objects to disconcert the enemy. The best thrusting method is to move forward and pivot on your forward leg, while simultaneously snapping your blade forward at the same time. Your opposite leg and shoulder and arm move backwards. Generally speaking, thrusts are more effective than slashes in causing death. Slashes, however, are the real stepping stones of knife fighting. Slashes and cuts to the hands, wrists, and forearms disable and demoralize your enemy to the point that you can finish him off with a well-placed thrust to vital areas. And the vital areas, this is where it gets a little bit grim. In the book, he shows all the various arteries on the human body and gives you the depth below the surface in inches. For example, the brachial artery right here is only a 1/2 inch below the surface. The radial artery down near your wrist is only a 1/4 of an inch beneath the surface. The heart is 3.5 inches beneath the surface, hence the length of the blade. And then he notes that there will be loss of consciousness in the number of seconds. There'll be loss of consciousness if you sever these arteries. For example, the brachial will be 14 seconds. The radial, the wrist, the suicide wrist, I guess you'd say, is 30 seconds. The heart, loss of consciousness is instantaneous. Death in each of these instances is for the heart in 3 seconds, and for example, the brachial artery, 1.5 minutes. The carotid artery is 12 seconds. So some pretty grim statistics there. Now, what about defense against a knife? The best defenses are run, shoot, or use a baton, club, chair, or other improvised weapon. One of the best police training videos is Surviving Edged Weapons from Caliber Press. This video should be shown to all serious night fighting trainees. It is significant that no practical, unarmed defense in this training tape is advocated against the techniques described herein. And here in the back of the book, we see kind of the diagram, and you can see how closely the Boker Applegate-Fairbairn knife compares to the diagram in the booklet. Shows the little weights back in the handle. I do suggest, if you're interested in double-edged fighting knives, to get a copy of this book. There's not many left. When I bought this one, it was $10. Now I think they're $30 to $40. But I will include a link down in the description to where you can get a copy. There is also has his book, just goes into more detail, which is the one I showed here, called Kill or Get Killed, also by Rex Applegate, which is a lot more detailed than this book, but they're really, finding a copy of that is much more difficult and can be kind of expensive. I think I'll have a links for Kill or Get Killed in the description as well. The blade is made of 440 steel. And this was considered a very high quality steel, I guess decades ago. It's considered probably a mid-range, upper mid-range steel, I guess nowadays. It is a fine looking knife here from Boker. Definitely something worth checking out. Now the book talks about whenever inserting the knife, and it's usually talking about like leather holsters or leather sheaths, it recommends grabbing a hold of the knife with the loop. Well, of course we don't have a loop here, so we have to be really careful because this thing is freaking bloody sharp. Hopefully not bloody, just sharp. It clicks into place. And then you see we've got these thumb holds there to kind of help index initially and help kind of maybe pull the blade out. And then you see that your thumb is aligned, and we've got the nice little angle there, the kind of forward angle, so that your thumb can press against that and not cause, you know, break a thumbnail, I guess, when you're shoving it into something. So that's pretty cool. Now the blade itself, this is kind of a raw blade, but it is what they coated, PVD coated. And PVD coated means that it's short for physical vapor deposition, which unlike chemical deposition or chemical vapor deposition, this process is physical. So I'm assuming it creates a pretty significant bond with the steel. As we look at the website for Boker knives, you can see that these they're not cheap. It's you know, 260 bucks, but it is a fine-looking instrument, well worth adding to your self-defense collection, or to add for your collection if you're, once you become a point shooter, you'll come to appreciate the Rex Applegate signature. It's Mark Laughlin speaking for the Ambidextral gunfighter, knife fighter. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.